It's our turn, episode number 90, Good Convention Experiences. In this episode, I talk with Jesse about the games we've played recently, and then we discuss what makes a great experience at conventions.
This is the Dice Tower Network, adding games to your wish list since 2005.
Hosting for this episode is generously provided by our fantastic supporters on Patreon.com. If you'd like to help us out by pledging $1 per month or more, please visit patreon.com/OurTurnPodcast. Every dollar helps us to keep this show going strong. Hi, and welcome back to Our Turn. I'm Cathy Ford, and today I am joined by my good friend and contributor to the show, Jesse Metcalf. Jesse, welcome back.
Thanks. Always great to be here.
So today we are going to be talking about what makes a good game convention experience. But first, as usual, we're going to talk about what we've gotten to the table lately. So Jesse, why don't you start us off?
Well, this time, I guess we're going to talk about cute and furry animals a lot. So I have two games in that genre. They're both games I've been looking forward to for quite some time. We'll talk about the first one I got from Kickstarter, and I backed the Kickstarter for it and got everything for it, and I'm so happy. This is Root, designed by Cole Worrell, and the artist is Kyle Farron, who does magnificently wonderful art for it. It is adorable.
I've heard the Root artwork is lovely.
Yeah, it's great. It was published this year by Letter Games, again, done on Kickstarter. So Root, it's a war game, but I hear it's in a similar vein to counterinsurgency games done by GMT. There's a dominant faction led by the Marquise de Cat. She has dominated the woods, and her cat soldiers are everywhere, and she wants to create a vast military machine.
As cats are wont to do.
Absolutely. This is a asymmetric game, so she wants to build resources to fuel her economic and military machine. She's going to build wood mills and build construction sites and recruiting stations to get more cats. So that's the new boss. The old boss are the Erie dynasties, the birds. They once took the woodland, they once had the woodlands, and they want to retake it. So they want to just keep plowing forward and create roosts. The dynasties are have a leader of sorts, and they have an agenda. And every turn, you're going to be adding more and more things to do in this agenda. So they're like mandatory actions you program in. And if there's a single action you cannot take, there is an uprising, which will cause a loss of victory points, and a new leader rises with a new agenda, and you start over. So while the Marquis de Cat is a very linear progression to the 30 victory points, the Erie has like waves up and down. There's going to always be setbacks. You cannot keep doing everything forever. You just try to propel it forward as long as you can, and then take the setback and restart. I got to play the Woodland Alliance, the bunny figures. They're kind of tired of the old boss and the new boss, so they want to create sympathy tokens everywhere, and you can use these sympathy tokens to blow up all the enemy units and plant your own there and start bases, but they have the fewest units of all. Marquis de Cat has like 30, the Erie Dynasties have 20. They only have 10, and they have to recruit some of them as officers so they can actually take actions. So you have very few military units on the board. However, you basically have the suicide bomber / sympathy tokens that just detonate an entire area and replace it with your people. So very, very dark and bleak they are, the Woodland Alliance. And the one faction we didn't get to play is the Vagabond. There's only one unit. He doesn't care anything about what's going on. He wants to build alliances, backstab people, and then go into ruins and complete quests. He's all about items and using items to complete quests and gain points. So 4 different factions, 4 different agendas, and there's even more factions in the expansion. It's a very Very unique experience. I don't have much wargaming experience. I'm not a fan of historical wargaming simply because it's tied to real world events and horrific things happen to people in those events. So most historic gaming is not for me. But you put cute and furry animals in the mix, and hey, I'm all about it. So
you're all for blowing them up, huh?
Yeah, sure. It was a very good game. It was a pretty tight point spread. And I would happily play this again. I think this is a solid 5. Litter Games has made some great stuff in the asymmetric department, Vast being their first big success. This one, if you like war games at all, especially counterinsurgency games, and you like furry animals, this game is for you. So that is Root.
Nice. I have only heard about the artwork in Root, which I've heard it's gorgeous. I have a copy of Vast, have not gotten it to the table yet because I just find all those different various factions or characters a little intimidating to figure out and have to explain to everybody. So I need to watch some videos on Vast, but I have not yet seen Root on the table. So the artwork, is it as gorgeous as everyone says?
Absolutely. Probably after the new year when Christmas is done, or maybe I should put some on my Christmas wish list. I want to go find, find the artist's website, Kyle Farron, and order some shirts and other things because it is fantastic, cute, yet also very serious art. So
nice.
My favorite by far is the vagabond who is the cat that has taken a pumpkin, carved a jack-o'-lantern, and then cut the face out of the jack-o'-lantern and slapped it on his own face. Basically has a pumpkin lantern now and a jack-o'-lantern face on top of his own face. And it is adorable, hilarious, and a little sinister, and I love it.
I love the thought that goes into some of these characters that are developed for games or stories or, whatever, anything artistic. I love the thought and the creativity that goes into creating some of this stuff. I'm not a huge fan of movies like The Nightmare Before Christmas, but I love the concept that went into creating that movie. Just the creativity, the use of, the holiday theme and all of that. So then when I see a game like Root, which, like I said, I haven't seen it on the table yet, but I've heard about it, that creativity just fascinates me. So I'm going to have to look for this game, and whether at a game day or a convention or something like that, I'm going to have to look at it and check it out.
Cool.
All right. My first game that I'm going to talk about is King Domino, which is a Spiel des Jahres winner. Have you had a chance to play King Domino yet?
I have not. It's certainly a game I'd like to try. I've seen it played, and it's everywhere now. It's pretty widespread distribution. So tell me about it.
Well, I picked this up because of all the buzz about it, and I found it at a convention. It was still shrink wrapped. It was at a convention flea market, if I remember correctly, or maybe it was in the dealer's room. I don't remember. But I picked up a copy of both King Domino and Queen Domino because I'd heard about both of them. And recently, Mark and I sat down and we played King Domino, and we just fell in love with it. So much so that we had to introduce it to our Tuesday game group, and they were like, yeah, I like this game. I like it a lot. So in King Domino, you get these pieces that have each half has a different type of terrain, or it may have the identical terrain, but it's divided in half. So there are fields and wasteland and mines and forest and lakes. And you are trying to set up generally a 5x5 grid around your castle, which sits middle-ish of your kingdom. It doesn't have to be exact middle. If you're setting up a 5x5 grid, it could be all the way to one side or the other. It just depends on where you put your tiles. And each turn, you get to select a tile that you're going to claim. And then you take your little king figure and you move it to another tile, which you'll claim on your next turn. And the idea is to create your little kingdom of land. Some of the sides of the dominoes have crowns on them. And at the end of the game, the scoring is you count up the number of contiguous tiles with the same terrain type. So, for example, all of your forest tiles that are touching, and then you multiply that number by the number of crowns also in that contiguous forest. And then you score. So if you have 2 crowns, it's 2 times, say, 10. So that's 20 points. If you have 1 crown, it would only be 10 points. Sometimes you're only going to have 3 tiles together. So that would be, for example, 2 times 3 is 6. Anyway, it's very easy to play, but it is a little bit of a brain burner because you have to figure out a turn ahead of time where you're going to put the tile that you're claiming. And are you claiming it simply because it's going to benefit your kingdom? Or are you hate claiming it so that your opponent doesn't get it? And when you pick up a tile, you have to place it where it's going to go in your kingdom. If for whatever reason you can't place that tile in your kingdom, then it goes out and it's just a wasted turn. Now, in order to place the tile, you have to have at least 1/2 of the domino, the tile, matching. So you can place a double river or double lake tile next to a lake and a forest tile, but you have to at least have lake there. Or a forest and a mine tile needs to go next to at least 1/2 of a forest tile or 1/2 of a mine tile. Anyway, this game is just, to me, it's just completely engaging. I have so much fun playing it. Mark likes to say that I have extraordinary pack foo. He is amazed when I'm able to pack a suitcase or the car or the freezer with more stuff than he ever thought could fit into it. And yet I have so much trouble with this game. I mean, you would think someone with pack foo is going to, dominate this game and figure out how to do it. But the tiles are all mixed up. They're numbered on one side, and then the terrain is on the other side. And you mix them up. I think there's 40 tiles, and you mix them up before the game, and then you put them back in different, in whatever order you pick them up, and that's how they're drawn. And then when you lay them out in numerical order and then flip them over. And so they are really well mixed up, and you never know what's going to come out. And the other day when we played a game with Dwayne and Frank, hi guys, and we didn't see mines until the end of the game. And then all of a sudden, all the mines started coming out. Anyway, this game is just completely engaging. It's challenging enough for, experienced gaming hobbyists. It's light enough so that if it's, the end of a game session and you just want to play one more quick game, it's not going to tax your brain that bad, but it is going to provide a challenge. But it's easy enough that I think I could easily teach this to non-gamers. In particular, I was thinking about my mom and my grandma. In fact, I texted my mom a picture of King Domino and said, I have a new game to teach you. And she was like, we'll see. I love this game, and this will be in my collection for a good long time. I am enthusiastically give this one a 5 on the OTP scale.
Very cool. Hopefully someday I will get a chance to play it. It sounds like a lot of fun. It's something up my alley.
If you see it at a game day or a convention, absolutely sit down and sign up and play it. In fact, I think I am going to probably volunteer to run it at Conquest SAC in it's either March or April. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a wonderful game.
Cool.
So what else have you gotten to the table?
Well, continuing with the theme of cute animals and great art, let's move over to the other new hotness of 2018. Let's talk about Everdell. We move from a war game to a worker placement tableau building game. So
those are always fun.
Oh, absolutely. Designer is James A. Wilson. Artist is Andrew Bosley. This was published by Starling Games. It was also a Kickstarted game. I missed out on both the original Kickstarter and the expansion Kickstarter. maybe try to see if I can late back the second one for the expansion. But thankfully, I've got a great connection with our local game store, and he heard me mention it and put a reserve for it, and he managed to get a copy pretty quickly. So
nice.
Yeah, love my friendly game store. So anyway,
what's it called?
This is Everdell.
No, the game store.
This is Hobbytown, which is a franchise, but this particular person runs the franchise. This is Dan. How you doing, Dan?
Nice.
He is a super nice guy, really runs the place well, has a great gaming community set up there, runs great board game nights, so I love the place, and he's very friendly and knowledgeable. So let's talk about Everdell. You're given a couple of workers, and you're given a space that can hold 15 cards, and these cards are either going to be critters or constructions. So constructions and critters, to put a spin on it, is the game. And these critters and constructions are either going to be unique or common. And then some give you bonuses based on critters or constructions, or if something's unique or common, that sort of thing. So there's going to be 4 seasons. You start in late winter, and you can, on your turn, you take one of 3 actions. You can either place a worker. There's a bunch of spaces on the board. Oh, let's talk about the board a second. The board is 3-dimensional. There's a giant tree in the center.
Oh, nice.
And
that's been a thing lately where people have been doing 3-dimensional boards.
Yeah.
Even King Domino has little 3-dimensional castles. So does Queen Domino.
Yeah. So on the ground floor, we have the river and a bunch of spaces where you can put workers to go claim resources. And up above, we have events that you could eventually claim if you meet the criteria. And way at the tippy top are additional workers that you're going to get at the change of the seasons. So the first turn, you place a worker out on the field and try to gather resources. So there's berries, there's resin, there's twigs, and there's pebbles. And you can take these 4 things to build things. And that's the second action you could possibly take, is play a card. So you can pay 1 or more resources and put a card down in your tableau, which will give you various, like there's production ones, which will generate resources not only when you play it, but also when it turns spring and fall, it will regenerate those resources during those times. There's also like travelers, destination, governance, prosperity. They all have different functions. Some will give you victory points at the end of the game based on situations. Some will give you victory points right now. Some will give you special abilities, the ability to break the rules. Some give you even spaces to put your workers to take unique abilities that either only you can take if it's a closed card, or if it's an open card, other people can put their workers on that space to take that action, but you get a victory point every time they do. So it's a really fun tableau builder using playing the cards. And then the last one is prepare for season. If you're out of things to do, or for some reason don't want to do anything more, you can prepare for the next season. So you'll get your workers returned to you. You'll get to take new workers from the tippy top of the tree. And if it's the spring or fall, preparing for spring, preparing for fall, you get to produce resources again. So basically, there's like 4 rounds, but it's asymmetrical rounds. I could still be doing stuff in winter, and someone can prepare for spring and get their workers back, and then go back to doing stuff while I may be still in winter.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of a stalling tactic. You don't really want to be the first to do these things, because the minute someone prepares, their workers come off the board, freeing up spaces that you probably want to take. So it's a good time to hold on to a worker and just bide your time until they prepare, and then you can jump on a space they left. So there's a lot of setting a pace and setting a rhythm for yourself. Do I want to hold on to resources and prepare early so I can spend more resources for cards later? And since you start with no resources, people were like, well, how are we going to get 15 spaces filled? And like, trust me, you'll get there. And by the fall, towards the last turn of the game, we all had only like 2 or 3 spots left to fill. And it's like, oh, so we got to play our 2 or 3 best cards at this point and figure out what to do with these workers. So, if you like It takes like a pure worker placement game like Agricola or Caverna and a tableau builder like Seven Wonders and smashes them together and makes this wonderful game. The art, again, is amazing. The 3D tree, it holds all the cards from the deck in the center of the tree as well.
Oh, wow.
So it is just a really cool presentation on the board. The art's great. The game is great. Someone tweeted pictures at Essen. There was a massive line just to go get a copy of Everdell. It's pretty hot right now. Finding copies can be tough. Just like Root. Root's also very hot, and finding copies of that can be tough. So this is a solid 5. Again, I love worker placement games, and I love tableau builders. This has some engine building components where cards combo off each other. It has a little bit of everything from games I like. It's light enough that you could teach about any gamer, but it's deep enough that people with serious analysis paralysis will probably say, oh my God, I have so many things I want to do and so few things I can do. I have to figure out what's the most optimal action. So,
Oh, wow.
this is a solid game. I highly recommend it. Yeah, it was so hot that they had to release the Kickstarter for the expansion before even the base game was out in retail, which seems counterintuitive to me as a game designer. I would want to get buzz and revenue in before I start cranking it out, but no, it's on fire. So,
Well, good for them.
yeah, so I'm really happy for the designer and artist. Looks like they built a winner. So that is Everdell.
Excellent. Excellent. That's one I haven't seen yet, and am looking forward to it. But just based on your description, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I love worker placement games.
Yeah, and this is a good one. Kind of a little less fiddly than the cards in Viticulture. You have a little more control, and it's a little less tight, so it's a little more accessible, I think. And
Okay.
I guess furry animal games are all the rage. Just to point out, Root is already number 118 on the Board Game Geek ranking, which is amazing, breaking near the top 100 in the first
Sure.
year. And Everdell's already up to 314. So both of these games have gotten a lot of buzz and heat behind them. So
Nice. All right. Well, my last game for this episode, for what we've gotten to the table lately, is Queen Domino. So Mark and I sat down, we played King Domino, and we're like, okay, now we got to check out Queen Domino and find out what's different, what's new. Queen Domino is essentially the same game, but it adds some new components to it. It adds obviously new land because it comes as a separate game, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But it adds knights and castles to this game, and a queen and a dragon. So you play it in the same way as King Domino. In fact, if you combine the two games, then 4 people can play to a 7x7 grid instead of a 5x5 grid.
cool.
And you are building your kingdom just like King Domino, except that one of the rewards for claiming a tile is a knight that you can put on there. And I think that if you have the most knights, you get to do something. I've only played the game once, and I need to explore it some more. The other thing you can do is put a castle on your tile if it has a castle on it, printed on the artwork. And whoever has the most castles gets the queen for that round. And if you are tied with anybody, whoever most recently placed the castle gets the queen. And it seems like that scores you some extra points. Like I said, I'm still exploring it. The artwork in both King Domino and Queen Domino is the same, and it's cute. It's interesting. In King Domino, one of the tiles has the shadow of a dragon on a meadow, so it looks like the dragon's flying over. And on another tile, it has the silhouette in the water of a like Loch Ness monster. And it doesn't do anything. It's just cute. It's cute artwork on the tiles. In Queen Domino, there's actually a piece that's a dragon, and what the dragon does is it comes out on the market where it adds some extra tiles as well. It comes out where the market where these extra tiles are, and you can destroy one of the tiles so that your opponents don't get it. It does add a new terrain type, which is red, and when you place a tile with a red terrain on it, then you can go and choose a type of market, a type of building that you're going to build on that. And it's like a town tile. And it has the same placement rules. You need to place it next to a tile that has red on it, a red square on it. Anyway, the gameplay is very much similar to King Domino. Like I said, it adds these extra components. It was fine. I liked it. I would easily, after my first play, easily give it a 4. That will probably go up with further playing of it and a little more exploration of it. The one reservation I have that keeps it from being a 5 just right off the bat is I don't understand why this was released as a separate game and not an expansion. It added new and different tiles. It added new and different components. It added the knights. It added the towers, the queen, and the dragon. It added a market for towns. But it's the same game, except for these extra added components. So I don't entirely understand why it was released as a separate game instead of an expansion to King Domino. But it's a good game. If you want something a little more in-depth than King Domino, then Queen Domino is your game. I would not necessarily teach Queen Domino to my grandmother, my mother, some of my family. Instead of King Domino, I would absolutely teach them King Domino first, and I would want to play King Domino with them several times to the point where they were saying, yeah, I really like this game. And then I would say, okay, great. Let's add something new to it. And then I would start introducing Queen Domino to them. But like I said, to me, it feels more like an expansion just after one play. But maybe I will change my mind when I get a little deeper into it. I don't know. Have you seen this one yet either?
No, likewise. I want to try it out sometime, but haven't gotten to it at this point.
Okay. If I were rating it as a separate game, it's a 4. It's the same game as King Domino. If I were rating it as an expansion, I would say, yeah, get this for King Domino. It's absolutely a good expansion to get, and it adds to the game. It makes the game better and a little more challenging. And you can play either game without the other. I would be more inclined to mix them up together, personally, once I've played both games a few more times. So that's Queen Domino. And both King Domino and Queen Domino were designed by Bruno Cathala. The artist for both games was Cyril Bouquet. And both games were published by Blue Orange Games. And that's what we've been playing. We have set up and been referring to and rating games by our own rating scale. Here's how we are using this scale. 5. Buy this now. 4. A good solid game. 3. Decent with some bugs. 2. Has great potential as kindling. And 1. Give me back the time I spent playing it. For today's hot topic, Jesse and I are discussing our opinion of what makes a great game convention. I have not been to any of the big ones like Gen Con or Origins or BGG Con or Dice Tower Con. The biggest convention I've ever been to has been about 3,000 or 4,000 people. How about you?
Maybe 10% of that.
Most of the time, the conventions I go to are about 300 or 400 people, but I have been to a couple that are a little bit bigger.
Yeah. No, 300 or 400 people is about where I'm at. So.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you'd been to any of the big ones.
No, that definitely is a goal to get to at least one of them.
Yeah, same here.
Trying to find time and deciding which one I really want to go to. So
my opinion, just from what I've heard on buzz and feedback and everything, I don't think I want to start with Gen Con. I do want to go to Gen Con. No dissing Gen Con. That's not what I'm saying. It's just really big. I think I want to, if I'm going to go to one of the bigger ones, I think I want to go to either BGG Con or Dice Tower Con, and then move up to Origins, and then move up to Gen Con. And, eventually, maybe Essen. Every year, I go to at least 2 conventions here in Sacramento. I go to Conquest Sac in the spring and Conquest Avalon in the fall. We just had Conquest Avalon. Are they fantastic conventions? They're okay. There's some room for improvement there, like with most things. But I go every year and I run games almost every year. And if I don't run games, I buy tickets. So, they must be doing something right?
Yeah. If you're having fun, then that's good.
Mm-hmm. What are your favorite cons to go to?
Well, let's see. The first gaming convention I went to was NukeCon. That's in Omaha, Nebraska. It's probably the largest convention in the immediate region. It's been around for over 25 years now. So it's probably my favorite. And I have some friends who go there, and I get to see them every year. I've also been to PretzCon, which is run by the Pretz family. And they have pretzels as their theme for their logos and for snacks and everything. That's a little smaller convention, hasn't been around quite as much. I've been to the Great Plains Gaming Convention here in Lincoln, Nebraska, a couple of times, though strep throat has kept me away from one of them and bad weather another one. It's always hard to go to a gaming convention in March because you never know what kind of weather you're going to roll up with.
It's either going to be fantastic weather or terrible weather.
Yeah. And then not a gaming convention, but here locally we have a sci-fi fantasy convention called Constellation. But it does have a game room. I was the gaming chair for a couple of years and helped run that. And I kind of try to get to at least 2 conventions a year, usually NukeCon and one other, depending on schedule and time. So.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So in these smaller cons in particular, because neither of us has been to the huge cons, what is it about the small cons that makes them fun, in your opinion?
Laid back atmosphere is really good. I've heard a lot of podcasts and podcasters talk about, Essen, board BGG Con, which is going on right now as we're speaking. Go to Indianapolis, so they can go to Gen Con, and they're just massive rooms packed full of people, and there's thousands of people there. It's nice when you go to a convention and there's only a couple hundred people. It's a much more laid back atmosphere. You can take your time. You don't feel rushed. Since there's not huge, there's some dealers there, but they're usually local game shops and local artists. There's not big publishers there trying to push the next thing that's coming out. So it doesn't feel like it's a corporate sponsorship deal going on. It's a lot of local people you want to support. Constellation has a great thing where they have, if you buy when you buy your admission and you have your con badge, they have the con suite, and they'll load you up with free food and drink every single year. They'll serve meals and snacks. That right there is almost worth the price of admission just on the food you're going to save for going. And they're wonderful people and really provide space. Other conventions can't quite do that because of booking requirements of the hotel or the convention space. So, finding amenities in one form or another. You get cool swag bags at most of the conventions I go to, usually with their logos and some other things on there. But hey, showing up to a gaming convention with an extra pencil and notepad, courtesy of the convention host, especially as a role play person, that's very handy. So
now, I've only ever gotten one swag bag, and that was when we went to RageCon this year. And that one is held in Reno, Nevada. It's held in this last time it was held in a non-gaming casino, which is a rarity anywhere in Nevada.
Yep.
But it was still, we had a good time. I was surprised we got a swag bag. Came with a T-shirt and some other stuff in it and a game. And, We had a good time. We had a great time there. It was well planned out, but it had one of the same major complaints I have about the cons here in Sacramento, and that is a lack of food service. The venue didn't provide food service. You could go to the restaurant. You're welcome to go to the restaurant. When Conquest was being held at a hotel, that particular hotel had a restaurant with crazy hours. It would be open from like 6 to 9, and then it would close. And then it would open from like 11 to 1, and then it would close. And I mean, close as in go dark. There's no staff, nothing.
Right.
And then it would open from like 6 to 11, for on Friday and Saturdays only. And so if you were there Sunday, you were out of luck because they were pretty much closed all day. And so, yeah, there was a lot of, fast food kind of stuff nearby, but you don't want to leave the con to have to go and get food.
Yeah.
And then RageCon sent out an email blast to everybody that said when they saw people having like DoorDash and Uber Eats delivering food to the con, they're like, no, you can't do that. You cannot do that. You can have it delivered to your room, but you can't have it delivered here.
Yeah.
And, I get it. It's part of their contract with the hotel or the venue, but I think it's something they need to work into their contract with the venue.
I know NewCon has had issues with the hotel that they host at. Some of them wanted to charge food tax if you're going to serve your own food. The last couple of years, they absolutely prohibited them from selling their own food at all or having outside food let in. If you wanted they sold the hotel itself instead sold snack packs that you could get. So basically the hotel just cut out the convention as a sort, and that was a source of revenue for the convention, selling snacks.
Right.
And that's kind of harsh. On the flip side, the Con Suite at Constellation is also located in the Haymarket, or has been for years. Or it's hosted downtown at the Cornhusker now, I think. And there's downtown and the Haymarket area were both heavy restaurant areas. So if you didn't like the hotel restaurant, there were like dozens to choose from. So they always had good locations for that within walking distance. So yeah, that's always a struggle as a convention. We want to find a space that's affordable, that we can work with, but we also want amenities available, and how can we provide those?
Right. Right. This year, Conquest is being held this year and last year actually, is being held at the McClellan Events Center, which McClellan in near Sacramento is an old Air Force base that got converted into a business park, and this part of it got converted into an event center. And we're doing one part of the event center because it's a small con. And, the venue's fine. It's got good parking. It's got good access. There's plenty of room for setting up the vendor hall and the miniatures and the role players. It's just, the food is an issue. Although they did this year at Conquest Avalon, there was a new Beach Hut Deli opened up. And so, from what I understand, the food was really good. I didn't buy anything from them this time, but from what I heard, it was really tasty. And so that's an improvement. The only complaint I have there is that they weren't open at all on Sunday for the convention. And I don't understand, me personally, I don't understand why you would open up a restaurant in a convention venue and not be open the entire time the convention is there.
Yeah.
I don't understand. So, if anybody out there understands this kind of stuff and wants to explain it to me, by all means. What about providing game events? Do you think that game masters should be allowed free access if they run so many hours worth of games, or should it be an everybody pays kind of situation?
Everybody pays. NewCon does a great thing. For every hour you either volunteer or run a game, they give you a con buck. And this con buck can be spent anywhere in the convention, at any vendors. When they had food, you could spend it there. If you volunteered to run, 30, 40 hours worth of gaming, you could pretty much buy your admission to the next year of NewCon because you have saved up enough con bucks. Well, they were called con bucks. I think they're called rads now to keep with the theme. But I still have some rads laying around from previous years, and that's a really
they carry over from year to year.
Yes, they do not expire. So they were wooden tokens. I think they've moved up to different tokens now, but yeah, that's a great incentive to get people to run things, and because finding people willing, especially in the role playing department, finding people willing to run stuff can be difficult. And yeah, as a game master, I don't mind supporting the convention. It's nice that some conventions offer incentives for people. They may not give you monetary, they may give you other considerations. So yeah, incentivizing people to run games is always a good thing if you're going to do a convention.
One of the things that I've seen at the Conquest Cons and at Pacificon and Dundrakon and KublaCon. Dundrakon and KublaCon are the ones that are about between 3,000 and 4,000 people. And then Pacificon, I think, gets probably close to 1,000 people, maybe a little more than that. But one thing that they all have in common is if you sign up to run 8 hours worth of games, that pays for your weekend pass. And so I generally run probably closer to 15 or 18 hours worth of games over a weekend. Because I usually sign up to run the longer ones. This last time at Conquest Avalon, I ran Star Trek Ascendancy, and I ran a Euphoria doubleheader with Leaders of Euphoria and Euphoria. And then I also ran Firefly Adventures, which is a little shorter than the regular Firefly game. In fact, it's quite a bit shorter, but it's still got the same flavor. And so that ended up running probably about 12 hours worth of games over the course of the weekend. And then I had my Sunday free where I could go and play other people's games. My friend Dwayne was running games the entire weekend. I mean, he didn't play in anybody else's game. He just ran games. You know, that's a great way to get in. And you can also volunteer. You can help run the game library or registration, anything like that, and that'll get you in for free as well.
Yeah. What I really liked about PretzCon is they have my favorite game registration system. A lot of the cons I go to, you have to email or type in a form to say, I want to run a game, here's the time slot, here's the thing, and then you wait for someone on the other end to actually formally post it on the website. PretzCon, when you entered a game, it immediately appeared on the website, and you could also make, as a game master, you could make edits to your own game. So, say I want to run D&D from 6 to 10 on Friday, but I suddenly find that another game that I really want to play in gets registered from 6 to 10 on Friday. I can just log in and move my game to Saturday with a simple edit, and now I'm not running into things like that, and I can plan my schedule a lot better. And that's my big thing with game masters. If you're not going to incentivize, at least give them the ability to be flexible. It's like, because that's the one thing I'm hesitant about registering games with certain conventions. Like, I really want to play stuff. I DM a lot of Dungeons and Dragons and other RPGs during the year, so I just want to be a player. However, I do want a game master, but I don't want to register a time slot and be locked into it just to see something I really want to play and get registered for that same time slot. So giving game masters the flexibility to move stuff around, whether it's board games, role-playing games, whatever, that really helps get people to run stuff for your convention. If they're going to take time out of the convention to run stuff, give them as much flexibility as possible.
Now, do the cons that you attend, do they tend to run side themes or extra themes?
Well, Constellation being a sci-fi and fantasy convention, they have a theme every year they stick to, and they usually announce it in the booklet for the following year. So you kind of know what they expect. But if it's there, it's just kind of in name only. There's not anything particular sponsored or ran to promote it. Obviously, PretzCon has their pretzel theme. That's it. That's eternal. But that's just their name. So, yeah, I have heard of conventions that make a whole theme for the year, and they try to incentivize things that relate to that theme. But I've not been to anything quite like that as a gaming convention.
Conquest has tried that a few times. They've had a steampunk kind of a steampunk side con going on as well. And at one year, and then another year they had a Doctor Who side convention and a Star Trek side convention. One year they had Tim Russ from Star Trek Voyager. He played Commander Tuvok. He came as a special guest.
Oh, wow.
And he actually did a concert on, I think, Friday night. And then on Saturday he was signing autographs.
Cool.
That was cool. But it doesn't have all that much impact on the con. I mean, the miniature wargamers are still going to bring their huge miniature wargaming sets. And regardless of what the side con is going on, the board gamers are going to bring either really old games that, they're trying to interest people in playing their old favorites, or they're going to bring the new hotness and run that. Either way is fine. I'm not judging. I enjoy doing both. I mean, Firefly's been out since, I think, 2012, I want to say, and I still go and run Firefly, and I usually get 2 or 3 people who are willing to sit down and play with me. So, the theme for games is never really strictly enforced, but to some extent, I have noticed that if they announce a space theme, then they'll call out the space-themed games that are being run, for example.
Yeah. As an RPG person who likes a lot of everything, I have mentioned this before, I think the previous time we talked. I really am excited for and also lament the organized play that Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder brings. I mean, that's a great way to get into it, and it is a tabletop MMO with kind of a railroaded theme. But it also, aside from that, it drives out so many other role-playing games from the space. I don't see, like, the Star Wars role-playing games from Fantasy Flight have been out for years, and I have never seen anyone other than myself and one of my friends locally run anything. And it's like, is this game tanking to the point where no one locally likes it? I mean, it does well, just nobody locally runs it at conventions. Star Trek is a popular one that just came out in the previous year. I think I'd like to try to promote that. They have sort of a living campaign going on, and that would be very conducive for a convention play. Each episode runs 2 to 4 hours, so that'd be perfect. I know part of it is trying to find something that fits in a 2 to 4 hour time slot, and the organized play for Pathfinder and D&D make those specifically for those time slots. But being a DM to try to create an adventure that fits in those frames, it can be rough. And there's so many good, hot role-playing games out there.
There are. And
yet, majority of the convention space that has role-playing is D&D and Pathfinder, and
And I know that some of the role-playing DMs that I have, met and played with here in Sacramento, they have lamented that issue at the local cons here. My friend Doc Cross, hi Doc, he has run for me, and I've participated in a couple of them. He's run Paranoia.
That's a great convention game.
And I've also heard another one that he is really great at running is Toon.
Also great for conventions.
Yeah. I have heard different things, and I don't know what the actual truth is. I've heard of Car Wars being both a role-playing game and a board game. I haven't seen that at a convention. I have participated in a Star Wars role-playing game at one convention, and I have seen Firefly, the role-playing game, run at a convention. But yeah, the majority of the people are there to play D&D and Pathfinder, and they pretty much take over. Oh, my friend Amy has run a role-playing game called Dingoes Ate the Baby.
Yeah.
And she's also, I'm not sure if it's a separate role-playing game or if it's one she's made up herself, but it's based on Scooby-Doo.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So, there are some at this convention, but the majority of it is D&D and Pathfinder. I think it serves the community to some extent because a lot of people have heard of D&D and Pathfinder. But I think it also does a disservice to the community a little bit because it doesn't introduce these other role-playing games.
Yeah.
It doesn't expose people to these other role-playing games that are just as good.
And some better.
Yeah. And I think that one of the reasons that they don't necessarily go out of their way to promote these other games, I mean, if somebody wants to run it, fantastic, go for it. Knock yourself out. But I think they don't go to promote it because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of outreach to the local community. Hey, we're looking to people run a smaller game, smaller role-playing game that's different than D&D and Pathfinder. What do you got? And I think that just requires some extra effort. And it kind of makes me sad to see that that effort isn't being put in.
Yeah. You touched on a couple of things. Car Wars. So the new Omaha Vehicular Association, NOVA, which has been around since pretty much Car Wars has been around, runs a Car Wars game every year at NewCon. I've played
So answer the question for me. Is it a role-playing game or is it a board game?
Car Wars is a paper miniatures tactical game. Auto Duel is a role-playing game from GURPS that uses the Car Wars universe. So,
okay.
So yes, I guess is the answer. But one of my favorite ones was Godzilla had shown up to destroy Omaha, so we were given a budget of $1 million to buy military-grade vehicles in Car Wars and just beat the crap out of Godzilla. And that was really fun. It's definitely not your typical Car Wars game, but we did thousands of points of damage to this thing by the end, and basically decided a winner on who did the most damage. And of course, the guy who took all aircraft with like one-shot rockets that did obscene damage won because of just the amount of damage they could dump into him. But the other one you mentioned, Star Wars. One year at NewCon, they had Peter, and I'm going to butcher this name, Peter Schweihofer. He wrote for West End Games a lot of their Star Wars stuff, and he ran a classic second edition revised West End Games Star Wars game, and we all got custom characters in his custom little scenario, and then he autographed my character for me, and I got to keep it. So that was I played a lot of West End Star Wars back in the day, and getting to meet him and see what he's up to now is pretty darn cool. So
nice. All right. Is there anything else you want to mention?
There was something that was on the tip of my tongue. Conventions are a great positive experience. Getting back to things you want to see at them, you mentioned new hotness. It's always good when people can get that rare new hot game because they kickstarted it or whatever and bring it to the convention for people to run. And conventions are a great way to find out, hey, I've heard about this game. Someone's running it. Let's sit in and find it out. And then see if I want to buy it for myself. And hey, there's vendors here who are running really good deals for this convention, so I can maybe pick up a copy. And then making friends. I've met some really good people at these conventions. Some of them I still keep in contact with.
Yep, me too.
So, I don't know. Conventions are a lot of fun. It's a good break from the usual. And hey, in some cases it can be a vacation. So.
Yep. And the other thing I want to mention is it's important that the convention be welcoming to everyone, whether you're a man or a woman, gay or straight, trans, just any level of gamer. It's important that the convention be welcoming to everyone because that's only going to be good for the hobby.
Absolutely.
And, I have yet to really encounter hostility at any of the conventions that I've attended. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm just saying that I've gotten lucky enough not to encounter it. And I think it's important that continue to spread, that idea, that ethos, that acceptance of everybody needs to continue to spread through the conventions that are long established, any that are coming up new. I don't think conventions should be old boys clubs that are just, this group's getting together to just play games. Fine, do that, but don't publish it as a convention that's open to everybody and then not accept everybody.
Right. I'm glad the last 5 years or so, a lot of light has been shined on, convention policies and anti-harassment policies. Those have really come to the forefront. And now publishers are saying, if you want to support your convention, you got to have an anti-harassment policy, and we want to see it to make sure you're representing everything in the positive and ensuring it's a good, fun, safe space for everyone. So yeah, that's another tip to would-be conventions who are starting up. Get your anti-harassment policy together and put a foot down and say, no, we're not going to tolerate this sort of behavior at our convention, and make it a safe space for everyone.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you for joining me for this discussion, Jesse.
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite topics, so it was a good discussion.
And I want to throw it out to the audience. What to you makes a great game convention experience? Let us know on Facebook or in guild number 2600 on BoardGameGeek.com, or ping me on Twitter and at Our Turn Podcast, and let me know what to you is a great board game experience. Let me know what to you is a great convention experience. And, let's get a discussion going and let the convention organizers know when they're doing a great job and when there needs to be some improvement. There is always room for improvement. I enjoy the cons that I go to every year. I still think there's room for improvement, and I am trying to work with the organizers to make some improvement, because I only want to see those conventions grow and prosper. All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you.
The Dice Tower Network is a proud supporter of the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund. The board gaming community is kind and generous, and this fund was created to provide financial assistance to members of the board gaming community in their time of need. To find out how you can help the fund continue to help others, please visit jackvassell.org/donate. Thank you for your support.
All right, so now we're winding things down and looking ahead to what's on our plate coming forward. And speaking of plates, Thanksgiving's coming up. You got any big plans for the big holiday, Jesse?
I am hosting Thanksgiving for my family, so
nice.
That will definitely be. We'll have a lot of food and a lot of fun. My family's been big into card games ever since I was a kid. And now I've kind of blossomed that into lots of board games. So my niece and nephews like to play some of the stuff I have. And that'll be fun. Otherwise, I know that Friday, we're hopefully getting the band back together and playing some Star Trek Adventures role-playing game.
Your online game?
Yeah, with Mason and Crystal and Joe. So... and then Saturday, we're hopefully going to have the D&D people over, and either we're plowing through Curse of Strahd. We're over 2/3 of the way there. Strahd's getting pretty upset with these do-gooder or semi-do-gooder adventurers wandering around his land, and I think he's about ready to put the boot in. So we'll see where that goes.
Nice. I have to work the entire Thanksgiving weekend, which is fine. On Thanksgiving, I get time and a half, so that'll be nice.
That's good.
But after I get off work, which I get off work at 2:30 in the afternoon, so it's not like I'm going to be missing Thanksgiving dinner. My friend Dwayne, hi Dwayne, is having a, family Thanksgiving dinner. His family's going to be there. His family's kind of small, so he also invites a lot of friends over. And there are going to be a lot of friends there. And then we all sit down and play games, which is great. I'm only going to be able to play games until about 8 o'clock at night. And then I turn into a pumpkin and I need to go home because I need to be at work at 5:30 the next morning. And then Saturday, another friend of mine, Karen, hi Karen, is hosting what she's calling Friendsgiving. And she's invited a lot of people. So far, there's only, there's about 10 or 15 people coming. I don't think her house could hold 35 people, and try to play games and all of that. But I think it's going to be a nice day. And so we're going to go to that as well. And again, more gaming because she's one of my gaming friends. And I think that's going to be a blast. I am hoping in the near future to be able to get to go out to my brother's house and see my sister and my niece Walker Lynn, who I've talked about many times before on the show, and my new niece, Charlie. My brother and sister-in-law like, unusual names for their daughters, which is fine. Charlie was born almost 2 weeks ago, I think. And I got to see her the day after she was born, and she is adorable. And I'm just excited that she's here finally.
Yay.
And then I texted my niece, Nicole. She is Walker and Charlie's big sister. She's 21, and they are almost 5 and newborn. So big age difference between them. But I told her next time she comes down, I need her for an entire day. She needs to come to my house for an entire day. I missed her last time she was down because she had too many other things going on. And I said, we need to get together to play some more Mechs versus Minions. We have been waiting and waiting for you to come over so we can play some more Mechs versus Minions. So hopefully we'll be able to pull that off this holiday season. I really hope so.
Cool.
All right. So where can people find you if they would like to connect with you online? I
am on Twitter at Jess Metcalf, JESMETCALF. I'm also on Board Game Geek as MadcapCH. And that's pretty much the best places to find me.
All right. Excellent. And you can find me on Twitter as at Our Turn Podcast. I also have a personal account that's at Cathy's Brain, and you'll see that in our posts when I'm talking about, who I've had on the show. But I have so much fun on Our Turn Podcast that I don't check that one very often.
All right.
And then we also have the guild on BoardGameGeek.com, which is guild number 2600. And Sarah Reed runs our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/OurTurnPodcast. And I'm trying to get better about posting pictures on Instagram. So follow us on Instagram, and I will do my best to start posting more game pics and see how that goes. All right. So until next time, and on behalf of the entire Our Turn Podcast crew, that was our turn.
Now it's yours.
Thank you for listening. This episode was recorded on November 15th, 2018, and is written and produced by Cathy Ford and Jesse Metcalf with assistance from Mark Ford. We want and encourage your questions, comments, and feedback. Please call 916-426-2873 and leave us a short voicemail, or send an email to feedback@ourturnpodcast.com. Our theme music was composed by Adriana Crickle. Incidental music was provided by Purple Planet Music. Please check out our show notes to learn more about these talented artists. The material in this episode is copyrighted under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. If you want to learn more about the games discussed in this episode, please visit our website at ourturnpodcast.com/episode 90. You can find a list of games along with links to their listing on BoardGameGeek.com. We are proud members of the Dice Tower Network. You can find out about other shows in the network like Flip Flory's Super Saturday Board Game Serial, the Board Game Design Lab, or Every Night is Game Night by going to DicetowerNetwork.com. Thank you for your support. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends about us.